Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your salary has doubled. For a moment, everything feels different. More money, less stress, a better life. But here's the uncomfortable question. 5 years from now, would your life actually look any different? Most people believe poverty is an income problem. Earn more, struggle less. Simple. But what if that's only half the story? Because history keeps showing us something that doesn't fit. People who receive sudden windfalls, even lottery winners, often find themselves back in financial hardship just a few years later. The money changed. Their decisions didn't. Now meet Hamna and Daniel. They work in the same city. They earn almost the same salary. One month, both receive the exact same $1,000 monthly raise. Daniel celebrates. A nicer apartment. A newer car. A few upgrades he's wanted for years. Hamna celebrates too. But quietly. She builds an emergency fund. Starts investing more. Keeps her lifestyle almost exactly the same. Same raise. Same opportunity. Different psychology. 5 years later, one feels richer. The other becomes freer. Because the poverty trap rarely announces itself. It simply becomes your normal. Most people think escaping financial stress starts with earning more. Eventually, earning more does help. But it isn't where the escape begins. People earning $2,500 a month can feel trapped. People earning $4,000 a month can feel trapped. Even someone making $8,000 every month can still wonder where all the money disappeared. Different incomes. The same invisible pattern. This isn't another lecture about skipping coffee or tracking every dollar. Those things matter. But they're rarely the real reason people stay stuck. The real battle begins much earlier. Inside the tiny spending decisions you stop noticing. Because the biggest trap isn't expensive purchases. It's the ones you never question. Habit 1. Master the small decisions. The poverty trap rarely begins with one catastrophic financial mistake. It begins with a habit, then another, until those habits stop feeling like choices. They become part of your identity. That was the difference between Daniel and Hamna. Not intelligence, not education, not income, their daily behavior. Daniel wasn't reckless. He simply wanted life to feel easier. A coffee before work. Food delivery after a long day. Another streaming subscription. A quick Amazon purchase because it would arrive tomorrow. None of those choices looked dangerous. That's exactly why they were. Small decisions repeated hundreds of times quietly become your lifestyle. Daniel often told himself, "I deserve this." And sometimes he truly did. But over time, comfort became automatic. Stress led to spending. Boredom led to spending. Convenience led to spending. Hamna asked herself a different question. Will this make tomorrow easier? Sometimes that meant packing lunch. Sometimes canceling subscriptions she no longer used. Sometimes waiting just one day before buying something she suddenly wanted. The individual choices felt tiny, almost meaningless, until months became years. Because your future isn't built by your biggest purchase. It's built by your most repeated one. Habit 2. Pause before you purchase. Here's something most people never realize. Daniel wasn't bad with money. His brain was simply doing what every human brain is designed to do. Seek immediate relief. Psychologists call this present bias. We naturally value today's comfort more than tomorrow's freedom. After work, Daniel was exhausted. Cooking felt like another job. So he ordered food. $28. No big deal. Except it happened again. And again. 4 times every week. Over 4 years, that single habit adds up to nearly $5,800. And that's before considering what that money could have become if it had been invested. Now add late-night scrolling. One-click checkout. Buy now, pay later. Everything around us is designed to make spending feel effortless. Daniel thought he needed more discipline. But discipline wasn't the biggest problem. His environment was. Hamna faced the same temptations. The difference was one small pause. Before buying anything unplanned, she asked herself, am I solving a problem? Or buying a feeling? Sometimes she still bought it. Sometimes she didn't. But the decision became intentional instead of automatic. And that's where financial control begins. Because every convenience purchase has a hidden price. You're not just buying comfort today. You're borrowing comfort from your future. Habit 3. Outsmart lifestyle inflation. The strange thing about lifestyle inflation is that almost nobody notices when it begins. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, "Today, I'll make my life more expensive." Feels like progress. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. A few months after receiving the raise, Daniel looked around his apartment and smiled. A nicer place. A newer phone. A premium gym membership. A newer car parked outside. None of it felt irresponsible. Each upgrade seemed earned. After all, he was making more money now. But every improvement quietly came with a monthly payment. One subscription. One financing plan. One upgrade after another. Without realizing it, Daniel's lifestyle had grown just as fast as his income. Now imagine both Hamna and Daniel earning $3,000 a month. A year later, their income increases to $4,000. For Daniel, the extra $1,000 immediately disappears. Higher rent, higher car payments, more dining out. Weekend spending becomes normal. The raise feels exciting. For a few weeks. Then it feels like nothing changed. Because most raises disappear long before people notice where they went. Hamna receives the exact same raise. She enjoys life too. But instead of upgrading everything, she upgrades selectively. Her expenses increase only where they genuinely improve her quality of life. The rest goes toward investments, savings, future opportunities. Within a few years, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. Daniel's lifestyle grows. Hamna's wealth grows. Same income, completely different future. Because wealth isn't created by every dollar you earn. It's created by every dollar your lifestyle doesn't immediately claim. Habit 4. Spend with purpose, not emotion. Here's where money stops being about numbers and starts becoming about emotions. Think about the last purchase you made that wasn't planned. Was it really about the product? Or was it about how you felt before buying it? Daniel didn't notice the pattern at first. A stressful day at work. An argument with someone he cared about. A lonely Friday evening. A difficult week. Almost every emotional low created the urge to buy something. A new jacket. A gadget. A restaurant meal. A weekend shopping trip. For a few minutes, everything felt lighter. That's what made emotional spending so convincing. The purchase worked. Just not for very long. Because Daniel wasn't buying products. He was buying relief. He was buying distraction. Sometimes he was buying a version of himself that felt happier, more successful, or more in control. But once the excitement faded, the original feeling quietly returned. Hamna experienced the same emotions. She wasn't immune to stress. She simply responded differently. Instead of opening a shopping app, she paused. She asked herself, "What am I actually trying to fix?" Sometimes the answer was exhaustion. Sometimes loneliness. Sometimes she simply needed rest. She went for a walk, called a friend, read a book, or waited until the emotion settled before making a decision. More often than not, the urge to buy disappeared. Because the purchase was never the real problem. The emotional pattern was. Sometimes the receipt isn't proof of what you bought. It's proof that something else hurt. And until you recognize that pattern, you'll keep spending money trying to solve feelings that money was never meant to fix. Habit 5. Ignore status spending. Comparison has always existed. But today it never turns off. Every scroll shows another vacation. Another luxury car. Another designer outfit. Another phone upgrade. Another life that looks perfect. Daniel saw those same posts every day. First, they were just pictures. Then they became expectations. Without realizing it, he stopped asking, "Can I actually afford this?" And started asking, "Am I falling behind?" That's how status spending begins. Not because you need something. Because you don't want to feel left out. When Daniel bought a newer car, it felt like success. The payment was $650 every month. It seemed manageable. Just another monthly bill. But over 5 years, those payments added up to almost $39,000. And that's before insurance, maintenance, interest, or the investment growth that money could have generated. The car gave Daniel something immediately. Attention, validation, a feeling of success. But quietly it took something far more valuable. Options. Hamna noticed the same cars, the same vacations, the same luxury lifestyles. But she reminded herself of something simple. Social media shows purchases. It rarely shows payments. Instead of asking, "Will people be impressed?" she asked, "Will my future thank me?" That one question changed almost every financial decision she made. Years later, Daniel looked wealthy. Hamna became wealthy. One built an image. The other built freedom. Because looking rich is often the fastest way to stay poor. Habit 6. Let small habits compound. Most people think wealth is built through one brilliant investment. It isn't. It's built through consistency. That's the part Daniel underestimated. Small decisions feel invisible until enough time passes. Imagine saving just $8 every day. Less than many people spend without thinking. A coffee, a snack, a convenience purchase. Invested consistently over 20 years, that simple habit could grow to roughly $115,000 to $130,000, depending on market returns. Not because $8 is extraordinary, because time is. Daniel spent those small amounts chasing today's comfort. Hamna invested those same small amounts into tomorrow. Neither decision looked important. Not after one day. Not after 1 month. Not even after 1 year. But 20 years later, everything looked different. Daniel struggled to remember where all those small purchases had gone. Hamna looked at an investment account built almost entirely from ordinary decisions. That's the quiet power of compounding. It doesn't reward perfection. It rewards consistency. It remembers every dollar you invested, every purchase you questioned, every habit you repeated. You don't need thousands to change your future. You need consistency, because compounding remembers every decision you forget. And time doesn't multiply intentions. It multiplies habits. Habit 7. Build the identity of a wealth builder. The biggest change in Hamna's life didn't happen when she earned more. It happened when she stopped thinking like a spender and started thinking like a builder. That's the shift most people never make. They try to change their finances without changing the person making the decisions. They look for a better budget, a better app, a better investment. But lasting financial change doesn't begin with a strategy. It begins with identity. Hamna stopped asking, "Can I afford this?" Instead she asked, "Does this move me closer to freedom?" Seems like a small difference, but it changes everything. Every purchase became a choice between today's comfort and tomorrow's freedom. Daniel asked a different question. "Can I squeeze this into my budget?" Sometimes the answer was yes. But fitting something into your budget doesn't automatically mean it belongs in your life. That's the trap. Daniel saw money as something to spend. Hamna saw money as something to direct. Toward investments. Toward opportunities. Toward choices her future self would be grateful for. She still enjoyed life. She still traveled. She still bought things she genuinely valued. The difference was simple. She stopped letting temporary emotions make permanent financial decisions. Because once you see yourself as someone who builds wealth, your daily habits begin to match that identity. Money follows behavior. Behavior follows identity. And freedom isn't purchased. It's practiced. Let's go back to where we started. Imagine your salary doubled tomorrow. Would your life actually be different 5 years from now? Maybe. But maybe not. Because the biggest financial changes rarely begin with a bigger paycheck. They begin with the small decisions you make long before the next paycheck arrives. Think about Hamna and Daniel. Same city. Similar income. Similar opportunities. 10 years later, their lives looked completely different. Not because one was smarter. Not because one was luckier. But because thousands of ordinary decisions quietly pulled them in opposite directions. Daniel chose comfort a little more often. Hamna chose freedom a little more often. Neither decision felt important on a Tuesday afternoon. But time noticed. One life became more expensive. The other became more flexible. One accumulated payments. The other accumulated options. That's how the poverty trap works. It doesn't appear overnight. It quietly becomes familiar. Until one day, it becomes your normal. Financial freedom works the same way. It isn't built through one dramatic sacrifice. It's built through ordinary choices repeated for years. So before your next purchase, pause. Ask yourself one question. Is this making today easier? Or is it making tomorrow better? Because your future is quietly watching every ordinary decision you make today. Think about the last purchase you made that wasn't planned. Not what you bought. Why you bought it. Was it solving a real problem? Or just a temporary feeling? If one habit from today's video changed the way you think about money, share it in the comments. Your experience might help someone else recognize a pattern they've never noticed before. And if you're trying to build a life where money creates freedom instead of stress, not just a lifestyle that looks successful, you'll probably feel at home here.